Over the years that I've been releasing, I've run into other graduates, students of the method, who used to come around to classes and retreats quite often, but for some reason or other, they stopped coming around. And almost always, they'll say, "Oh, I still love the method and I release every single day." But after a little conversation, it becomes abundantly clear they're not really releasing. They're just skimming over the surface of their negativity, just kind of shaving off a very light layer of it, instead of really reaching deep and letting go in a meaningful way. And this is what Lester and Larry used to call closet releasing. Now, in this video, which will be the first in a short series, I'm going to cover what it really takes to apply this method in the most simple and practical way so that you get results and you don't waste this precious opportunity and you take advantage of this wonderful gift of Lester Levenson and make this lifetime your time to go free. Welcome to the Power of Quiet, the simplest and fastest way to achieve perfect peace of mind, unlimited happiness, and ultimately, total and complete enlightenment. And we do this by applying the method that was given to us by the physicist turned spiritual master, Lester Levenson. And I want to talk about Lester's method for a moment and how to apply it in a way where you actually get results and you could achieve everything that Lester talks about and see for yourself that you're an unlimited being. Not just talk about it in your mind, but actually live it through and through. Now, when it comes to Lester's method, there's two primary components to it. Number one are the simple handful of tools to let go of the negativity, to let go of the suppressed, unwanted feelings that hold us down, to let go of the feelings of lack that culminate in all of our desires, where we're looking for happiness out there in the world, and just dropping that desire, which all sorts of religions, philosophies, and other masters talk about. But what Lester did was he put all of these ideals into a simple and practical method that you apply, and you see immediate results when you apply these simple releasing tools. So that's the first component of using his method. It's just the tools themselves, the tools for letting go. Now, the other component of Lester's method, and this is something that is either often ignored or it's something that is most often resisted, and that is all of the assignments. There are worksheet exercises that are laid out, and you've seen these if you've taken the Abundance course or the Mastering Your Fate course, or you come to any class or retreat. There's all sorts of assignments that look at different topics where you look at your attachments and your aversions to those topics and let both of those go. You also work on goals and other writing and releasing assignments. Now, like I said, this aspect of Lester's method, the worksheets, the assignments, are often just put to the side. And they are extremely important, and I'll get into that in a moment. But first, I just want to highlight how these are often the things that are really resisted and keep us from getting the most out of the method. Because I got an email recently that asked about my next upcoming course. And that email kind of went along something like this. You know, Kris, I'm just sick of doing these attachments and aversions exercises. Can you do something different on this next course? And I've also had other students at other times expressed that they just didn't like doing these assignments. They didn't like having to sit down, do the writing and releasing. And what they requested was that I do a lot more guided meditations, a lot more cleanups, a lot more, stuff where I just kind of talk you through stuff. And what they want to do is just sit back and just listen, follow along, and just release along with the guided releasing. And I told them, I do some of that, but I'm not going to do more. And it's a mistake to want to do that over doing these other assignments. And that mistake is basically they're wanting someone to do the releasing for them. They're wanting someone to just pull out their stuff, and they just want to sit back passively, just kind of let go. When in fact, if you really are serious about the method and are serious about going free, nobody can do that for you. You could have the greatest guided releaser. You could have Lester himself doing a guided meditation. And it might sound brilliant, and you might release a lot, but that's not going to get you there. The whole nature of this method is that it is a do-it-yourself thing. And that means that you have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and apply yourself and use these exercises. Now, I know that there is a lot of resistance. I've experienced a fair share of my own resistance to sitting down and doing these assignments, particularly because oftentimes, like in classes, they're referred to as homework. And who wants to do homework? I mean, it just seems like another job to do, to sit down, do this worksheet, write stuff out, release on it. But what I noticed was that the moments when I made my greatest movement, and I just really made a huge leap into spaciousness, into quiet, and seeing so much of who and what I really am. It's been when I was at retreats where there really isn't any other alternative but to doing these assignments. Oftentimes in a lot of these retreat places, the internet is sketchy, there's no television, no other way to distract yourself, and you're there for a purpose. So you're there with an intention to do this work, and without any other distraction, you just sit down and you do the work. So it's like you have no excuses. And that's when I found that because I have no excuses, I really apply myself. And boy, just within a couple of days going into a retreat, I am flying as high as a kite. And by the end of that retreat, I'm pretty solidly in beingness. But again, that resistance often kicks in. There have been so many retreats where I left flying high as a kite, and I had my workbook, a lot of exercises I delved into, but there are a lot more exercises in that book that we didn't get to cover. And I'm like, you know what? When I get back home, I'm not going to distract myself with anything. I'm just going to stay focused on this work. I'm going to finish out this workbook and then just keep on digging until I'm totally free. But lo and behold, I get home. I never crack that workbook open again. That unconscious resistance kicks in, and I myself become a closet releaser. And what does that mean, to be a closet releaser? That means that, sure, I know these tools of releasing, right? That first aspect of using the method, using the tools, right? There's a kinesthetic way of releasing that we often use right here on this channel. There's a letting go of figuring things out, listening to your mind, letting go disapproving of yourself, giving yourself love and approval. That's a tremendous tool for experiencing who you really are. And then, of course, there's Lester's 6 steps, where you identify your desires, which are in fact your lacks, your feelings of lack, and also your mental pictures of lack, where you're actually creating what it is that you don't want, identifying those desires and removing them, and actually moving yourself from wanting to having. And so, knowing these tools, I would apply them, but just in a whimsical way and in a very passive way. I would apply them if something came up that really bothered me, a feeling that I noticed that's uncomfortable. I go, oh yeah, I should release that. And then I just kind of open up a little bit, and then I let it go. And then as soon as I'm not feeling so uncomfortable anymore, I stop. Until another uncomfortable feeling comes up, or I notice I'm bothered by something. And maybe again, I'll release. Or I'll just ignore it and just keep listening to my mind and keep following the ways of the ego. But the truth is that when I'm practicing this closet releasing, I'm releasing maybe 1 or 2% of the day. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the 6 steps, there's a whole step in there that says make releasing constant. So 1 or 2% is a far cry from releasing constantly. And also, this nature of closet releasing, it's being passive. So I'm just waiting for something to come up that feels uncomfortable. And if I'm lucky enough to notice it and have the discrimination to open up and let go of that uncomfortable feeling, then I let that go. But usually, almost every single time, as soon as that uncomfortable feeling isn't so uncomfortable anymore, I stop and I just go on the rest of my day being an ego. And releasing that way is not going to get the job done. Now, like I said, that is a passive way of releasing. Now, going back to the second aspect of Lester's method, which is using these exercises, the reason why they're so important is that it takes you off of passive mode and gets you active, proactive, to start looking at what is in your mind, particularly your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind isn't this deep, dark, mysterious void that people talk about. Oh, I'm searching for my shadow, whatever the hell that is. It's just your thoughts and feelings that you put in the past into your mind. Remember, the mind is just recording in a playback machine. So it recorded in some sort of stuff, and you forgot about it. But when you do these exercises, it gets you to start looking into your mind, and these thoughts and feelings that were put in the past and are running subconsciously, they start to become conscious as you do these exercises. So now you're actively pulling up your subconscious thoughts, your subconscious negativity, and then reaching in and pulling it out. And usually in a much more profound way, in a deeper way, and letting a lot more of it go than when you're just letting go of it passively. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you're just kind of water skiing, skimming over the surface, as opposed to really reaching deep and pulling out the deepest negative stuff. So one thing that is required in order to overcome this resistance, actually, it's almost like a loophole that just lets you bypass the resistance, is showing up. Like I said, when I showed up at a retreat or a live class, I'm more compelled to do the work. And I'm surrounded by others who are doing the work. And so I'm in good company. And that sort of focus on the method is catching. So when I'm in the company of others who are all releasing, it gets me to show up and do a lot more releasing, do a lot more digging. And that's when I just bypass that resistance and I get those results and get into a very high place quickly. And this is evidenced by all the people. There's the majority of the people that tend to show up nowadays, show up again and again and again. And they've been coming around for years. And one thing is clear to everyone that comes around is that their life just continually gets better year by year. I often ask this in class, whether anyone has been releasing just a couple of months, like they're brand new to it, or they've been a long-time graduate. They've been releasing for 20 years. I ask everybody to look at themselves right now versus where they were just a year ago. Even if they've been releasing 20 years, just in the past 1 year, has there been a big difference? And every single person, without a doubt, says absolutely yes. There's a lot less fear. There's a lot less frustration and spinning around with my ego and trying to figure things out. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm more in tune with beingness. My life is a lot more harmonious. I'm getting gains in all sorts of areas in my life. And so that growth, when people consistently apply themselves, and they apply themselves by doing these assignments, the attachments and aversions, working on goals, all that stuff, that's what makes the real growth. Not just passive releasing. And for those of you who are familiar with Lester, you've heard him talk about this himself when he says, don't release to get high to release. Because it's when you're in a high place that you could really reach down, dig out the deepest garbage, and so that it's no longer plaguing you anymore. But what most people do is they just release until they feel good a little bit. And then they stop until they go back down and their feet are in the fire. And then they go, oh yeah, I have this method. Maybe I'd better pull it out of the closet and start releasing again. And they only release until they feel good again, and then they stop again. And that's why their growth is like this and just very gradual. Whereas the ones that show up, do the work, and really apply themselves, that growth just moves exponentially. It's like a curve that just goes up and up and up. So again, one of the easiest ways to overcome this resistance and see real growth, if you're interested in freedom, is simply showing up. Now, also, as a bit of incentive to doing these exercises, whether you show up or not, but just realizing that, hey, if I really want to get the most out of the method, it's doing attachments and aversions. It's working on goals and doing these other exercises that we have in these various classes. And that is, when you do an attachments and aversions, you're focusing it on a topic. The topic could be money. The topic could be like a habit, like beating yourself up or worrying. And when you apply the method to focus on letting go of your attachments and aversions to any of these topics, what that ultimately enables you to do is master that topic. Whether that topic is money, become a master of money. Or if that topic is a bad habit, such as beating yourself up, you master that so that you just don't beat yourself up anymore. Now, oftentimes when you do these exercises, you're not going to master it all in one sitting. Some of these topics, like these strong habits, like beating yourself up, disapproving of yourself, they run deep. It's something that everybody does. And so you might find yourself doing these exercises again and again. But as you do them, you'll notice a profound effect that you beat yourself up less and less as you keep working on this topic. So if you hold that in mind, that when you're doing these exercises, the purpose is to master these topics, to get completely clear. So you don't have any strings pulling you either way, like your attachment to it or your aversion to it. You're free. You just cut all the strings from your ego, and you're in a very clear place. And your mind is quiet over that topic. So you don't have a bunch of noise talking at you, and you can see things clearly, and you get to decide, not your ego. Whether you decide about how much money you have or whether or not you beat yourself up, you're in charge. And so when you have that clear goal in mind, that I'm doing these exercises so I can master this problem in my life, because it's undeniable that I have a problem of beating myself up, or I'm worrying all the time, or I'm frustrated about what this politician or this political party is doing, and it's bothering me, and I want to complain about it, but that's not getting me anywhere. That's not resolving anything. I just want to be free and clear. I want to be imperturbable. When you hold that in mind, and you have a clear goal about freedom in any of these topics that we do these exercises on, then it's something that motivates you. Instead of like feeling like it's a grind, like, oh, I got homework to do. I got to do this exercise and sit down and do the releasing. It puts you more in line with step 6, where you just simply recognize every single time you release, you get happier and lighter and freer. And the more you release, the more happier and lighter and freer you get, until you're totally there. You're the happiest, the lightest, the freest. And you're hanging out with Lester and all the other masters. And that is the ultimate goal. So I bring this up because you have to address these things. If you've heard what Lester has to say about freedom, and that resonates with you, and you're like, oh, gee, I want that. Well, what are you going to do about it? You're going to sit around passively waiting for it to happen? Or get yourself distracted and look over here, look at over there, maybe this other guru or this other expert, they wrote a book about something, and maybe that'll just put a missing puzzle piece into my head, and oh, now I understand everything, and boom, that's going to do it. Then I'm going to be free. It doesn't work that way. If you want freedom, you have to undo all the unfreedom that you put into yourself. Nobody put that into you but you. And if you did it, only you can take it out. And that's what the method, the two aspects of it, the tools for letting go and the exercises that get you to be proactive and dig the stuff out until it's all gone. Now, having said that, let's do a little releasing now on any resistance that you might have to either showing up and applying yourself in a class, or just taking any exercises that you already have from any classes that you've taken, from the basic course, so that you actually get yourself moving forward and moving down that path to freedom and achieving everything that Lester talks about. All right, so just close your eyes for a moment and think about what that one step in the 6 steps says about making releasing constant. Let's just take that literally for a moment. Imagine right now sitting down to a desk, opening up a workbook full of attachments and aversions, and not getting up until you let go of all of your attachments and all of your aversions. All right, just see if that brings up any resistance. Oh my God, that sounds awful. Or what if I need to pee? What if I get hungry? Whatever. And just measure how much resistance you have to doing that. Just rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 being the most resistant, and 0 being the least resistant. To just sitting down and not getting up until you're fully released. All right, so whatever number you're at, wherever that resistance is, just feel that resistance right now. And you could feel it because you put a number to it. How'd you put a number to it? Well, it's a feeling. It's also a picture in your head. And chances are, when that resistance comes up, you tend to fight with it. Because it's not such a great feeling, is it? So, essentially, whenever resistance shows up, you have a tendency to say no to it. And just notice if you're wanting to say no to that resistance now. It's like, ugh, I don't like it. Get out of here. And let's discriminate for a moment. When you say no to that resistance, does that make the resistance go away? And does that provide any solution? No. So let's do something different since saying no doesn't work. Take a look at that resistance that you measured yourself with. And maybe that measurement is small. Maybe it's just a 2. Maybe it's a 5. Maybe it's 10. Whatever it is, just look at that resistance. And instead of saying no to it, let's do the opposite. Just look at it right now and say yes to it. And say yes to that resistance a little bit more. And say yes to that resistance a little bit more. And say yes to it a little bit more. And say yes to it even more. And say yes to it some more. And say yes to it even more. And even more. And some more. And say yes to it even more. All right, now measure yourself again. See if you moved. Maybe it went from a 10 to a 7, or a 5 to a 1. All right, just see where you're at now. Notice the difference? So you let go of a little bit of the resistance. Now let's welcome up the rest. So let go pushing down the rest of that resistance. Just like all the other negative, unwanted feelings, they're all things that we push down and we hold on to. And if we keep holding on to them, they're going to keep bothering us. They're going to keep interfering with our decisions and messing up what we experience in our life. So let go pushing down on the rest of that resistance. And welcome it up now. All of it. Just allow it to arise. Now it might feel a little bit uncomfortable coming up, but don't say no to it. Don't fight with it and try to push it down. Just feel it. It's just a feeling. What can it do to you? It's only a feeling. Welcome it up and open up a nice big imaginary window right in front of you. And imagine that resistance, that energy, that feeling just evaporating, dissolving right out that window now. Just welcome it up and allow it to evaporate and dissolve. Just let it go. Let it leave. A little bit more. And a little bit more. And a little bit more. And some more. And even more. And some more. And even more. And welcome up a little bit more of that resistance. See if you can just reach down, pull up some more. After all, you're the owner. Right? Pull it on up. You put it in, and you can take it out. So just bring it on up. And again, you don't need to fight with it. Just pull it up. It's just a feeling. Open up that big imaginary window. And let the rest of it just evaporate and dissolve right out that window. And more. And even more. And even more. And even more. And even more. All right? Notice how you feel now. See if you're as bothered by sitting and releasing and doing these exercises as much as you were a few moments ago. Or do you feel more at ease about it? And more of a sense of, oh yeah, I could do that. That's not a big deal. In fact, that's a good idea. It's going to get me lighter and freer and get a bunch of rotten noise out of my head. Right? Isn't that worth it? You see, you have to discriminate about what's going on. You could either apply the method or you can listen to your ego. And your ego is not interested in you applying the method. Your ego is not interested in you going free. It needs you to be bothered in order for it to survive. So it's going to do anything it can to convince you to stop, to take a break, to say, oh yeah, I did a bunch of good releasing. I did a good job. I'm going to give myself a break now. But if you're really serious about freedom, instead of taking a break, you'll just step on the gas. And if you do that, you would be pleasantly surprised at how fast you could achieve total freedom. Lester says you could do it in 2 weeks or less. And he's not wrong. The difference is your approach to it. People always wonder, well, how come nobody's going free like Lester? Well, it's simple and easy if you just do it. The problem is most people just aren't doing it. It doesn't matter what others are or aren't doing. What matters is, what do you decide to do? And Lester himself said that his secret to going all the way was his concentration. Now, some people will say, well, he was motivated because he had a second massive heart attack, and that was a benefit for him to motivate him to go on all the way. And I don't have a heart attack, so I don't have that advantage for myself, which is a strange excuse. It's just resistance. Stop listening to that. And once you start doing the work, you see it's a piece of cake. And you get lighter and happier and freer. and you fulfill everything that's woken up inside of you the very first moment you heard from Lester, and or any of these other masters like Eckhart Tolle, where you realize, oh, I'm not this ego. I'm not these negative thoughts. I'm something much bigger and deeper than that. Well, now's the time to live it. And on that note, I invite you to join the next class, because it is a special one. It's a brand new class called Lester's Path to Enlightenment. And of course, we're going to be doing a fair share of attachments and aversions and other exercises, but it's going to be a lot more practical in its approach, where you're going to have a lot of real-world assignments to applying Lester's Fast Steps to Freedom and other ways to make releasing a lot more integrated into your life, where it's just simple and easy and natural for you to be releasing, not just skimming the surface, not just water skiing over your feelings, but releasing deeply, moment by moment, every single day, not just 1 or 2% of the day, but like 70, 80%. Once you get that, then you're going to tip the scales, and that path to freedom is going to be clear right in front of you. So if you're interested in going free, check out the link below. Join us this November for Lester's Path to Enlightenment, and we'll see you there.